So I wanted to do a video on my central vacuum system that's mounted in my garage. It's made by Electrolux, and I'm pretty sure that it is original to the house itself, which was built in 1989. There are 6 different outlets scattered throughout the house where you can plug in a hose and then vacuum in any room, and everything will go through the tube or piping in the wall and get sucked into the vacuum in the garage. The problem is that my house didn't come with any of the hoses, so I can't plug into any of the outlets and turn the vacuum on. The other problem is the outlets are old and ugly and need to be replaced. So I went on Amazon and found a company named OVO or OVO. So I ordered a kit from them with the hose and all the attachments, and I also ordered 6 new outlets to replace the covers on the existing ones throughout the house. Now I have to say what's really cool is that this company actually sent me a cat house, and I really didn't know that they were going to do that. There's just one problem though, is my instructions for the cat house seem to be missing and how to set it up, so I had to kind of do it myself. I guess it's not a big deal. The other problem is that Butters didn't really like the cat house. So you guys might want to consider sticking just to the vacuum parts. It's just my advice. So the first thing I wanted to do was clean up the vacuum unit itself and the area around it. I used a shop vacuum to vacuum the vacuum, and then I wiped it down with some cleaning wipes. I removed the dustbin from the unit and found out the filter was past its prime. But thankfully the bin itself was empty. With that done, I went inside and started sizing up the outlets, like this one, which was installed upside down. But before I went to replacing them, I needed to learn a little bit more about how they operate. I also wasn't sure if the vacuum unit motor was even operational since it was so old. I plugged in the new vacuum hose into the outlet to see if it would turn the unit on, but it didn't work. The hose is supposed to create an electrical circuit with the metal contacts inside the outlet. It looked like maybe the new hose I bought just wasn't compatible with this old outlet. I shut the power off at the breaker and then started replacing the basement outlet. After pulling it out from the wall, I not only learned that there were 2 low voltage wires that make a circuit with the vacuum unit, there were also 2 wires that power the top connector from the electrical outlet. After pulling the 2 low voltage wires off, I touched them together and learned the old battle axe still has some fight in her. I disconnected the 110 volt wires from the top connector, capped the wires, and then tucked them safely back into the outlet. I later looked it up online and learned that the top connector is used for a carpet beater attachment. I connected the low voltage wires to the new outlet, tucked it back into the wall, and secured it with screws. Now to test it. So the good news is that it works, but the bad news is there's no suction, like at all. Before trying to troubleshoot the reason for no suction, I went ahead and replaced all the other outlets in the house. I went out to the garage and learned that the exhaust air pipe had gotten pushed off the vacuum, so I pushed it back on and tightened down the clamp. I then checked the outlet right next to the vacuum and found out that it did have suction. This meant that either a pipe had been disconnected somewhere in the wall, or more likely there was a clog in the system. I went ahead and swapped out this outlet to be compatible with the new hose. Then I could get to work on fixing the clog. I went down to the basement to look at the pipe system and make sure that it was all still intact. After finding out that it was, I then tried to isolate where the clog would be. Since none of the interior outlets had any suction, I knew the clog was somewhere between the garage and the first intersection where the pipes split off. I then went back upstairs and hooked up my shop vac to the first outlet in the chain. The shop vac hose didn't fit the outlet, and I couldn't feel any debris getting sucked in. So I wrapped the end of the hose in a towel to act as a gasket and create a seal against the wall plate. This worked pretty well, and I could feel debris getting sucked out of the wall. I then tested it with the new vacuum hose and was pleased to see that suction had been restored. But then I found a new problem. This wall outlet was missing a gasket that creates a seal between the outer plate and the inner tubing. This was certainly decreasing suction power. I pulled this one out of one of the other outlets. This slightly thicker O-ring was the closest match that I could find at the store, but it didn't fit. I went back to the store and found a closer match, and although it wasn't perfect, it did help to minimize the problem. Butters was certainly happy to claim ownership of the extra O-ring. So I have to admit that I feel like the hose is a little bit unwieldy carrying it from room to room and floor to floor. I guess that's why you don't see too many whole house vacuums anymore. I do have a bot vac that does pretty much everything I need.
Hit Entry is a superb installment of iOS idiosyncratic but much loved Stealth series.
One limitation of the bot vac though is the stairs, and any pet owner knows that hair and debris like to build up here. Now that I've restored the central vacuum though, it seems to do a pretty good job here. The last thing left to do was gather up all the accessories and hang them in the front closet. Using the hose bracket and a level, I pre-marked the wall. I pre-drilled the holes and then added wall anchors. The bracket was then easy to hang up with a couple screws. And that's it. On to the next project.